On today's edition of Safety Talk, we are going to be looking at a very important topic, fire safety. Fire has always been useful to man from time immemorial and has empowered man to do the following. One, to roast or cook food, to drive away animals, to shape tools and survive the intense cold. So, by mentioning these very important roles that fire plays in woman's life, you will all agree with me that fire is a friend. In fact, a friend in need. And a friend in need, they say, is a friend indeed. So fire is a friend and also a good servant, but at the same time could be a big destroyer when it is not properly managed and you allow it to become the master. Fire causes injury, damages, and destroys life and properties. Even though fire is hostile, we use it daily and cannot do without it. Yes, fire to humans are inevitable. Yeah, it is therefore necessary to prevent its anger. Well, we need to prevent and control the aspect of fire that is not good, that is the destructive aspects of the fire. So this discussion today, therefore, will proper, properly equip you to have the knowledge of how we can prevent and control fire. This brings to the fore fire safety. Fire safety is all about reducing life and economic losses caused by fire and related emergencies. The above can be effective through leadership, advocacy, coordination, and support training. Fire safety awareness and education programs should be targeted at those groups most vulnerable to the hazards of fire, such as you that you are listening to me now, including the young, the elderly, and the disabled. So, in a nutshell, everybody needs to have an awareness about uh, education program or awareness about fire safety because we all use fire on daily basis and fire disaster can happen anywhere. It can happen in houses. It can happen in hostels. It can happen in kitchen. It can happen on the road. It can happen in hotels. It can happen in refineries. It can happen in our working place. It can happen in our playgrounds. It can happen just anywhere I mention it. So this is why it is very important that you and I and each and every one of us have the awareness about fire safety. Now, let me quickly mention some working definition of terminologies under fire safety. The first to be mentioned is fire safety itself. What is fire safety? Fire safety, this is the theory and practice of applying adequate safeguards to reducing life and property loss caused or occasioned by fire. Okay, then what is fire itself? Okay, fire, this is a rapid chemical combustion or reaction between three essential elements of fuel, heat, and oxygen, accompanied by a release or evolving of energy in the form of heat, smoke, and oven flame. So what I'm trying to say under the definition of this fire is that fire itself contains three elements. Okay, three elements must come together before you can have fire. What are those three elements? Fuel, heat, and oxygen. Okay, and when these elements comes together in appropriate proportions, then you have what we all call fire. Let me just bust your brain at this level. So what this simply implies is that if you don't want fire, or if you want to extinguish fire, what do? You just remove one of the elements, then you will not get fire. Because before you can get fire, these three elements must be together in appropriate proportion. Now, the next thing I want to mention under the definition of terminologies is fire risk. We all know what risk is. So what is fire risk? So fire risk is a factor or hazard likely to cause harm to lives or loss of properties by fire. Okay, so please come along with me. So talking further about these three elements. Now, in this industry, we now term it as the fire triangle. Okay, the fire triangle or combustion triangle is a simple model from the science of firefighting for understanding the ingredients necessary for most fires. So these are the ingredients necessary for most fires or any fire whatsoever. Okay, it has largely been replaced in the industry by the fire tetrahedron, which provides a more complete model, also described uh, below. So I will explain further about this fire tetrahedron. Okay, the fire triangle is a model, it's a simple model, but in the industry, another better idea has evolved, which we call fire tetrahedron. So just come along with me. So the triangle illustrates the rule that in order to ignite and burn, a fire requires three elements, as I've mentioned earlier: heat, fuel, and oxygen. Okay, the fire is prevented or extinguished by removing any one of them. So if you remove any one of those three elements, you will never have fire. So a fire naturally occurs when the elements are combined in the right mixture, e.g., more heat is needed for igniting some fuels unless there is concentrated oxygen. Okay, the fire triangle is a useful teaching tool, but first to identify the fourth essential element of fire. What is that essential element of fire? The sustaining chemical reaction. So if you have these three elements, maybe they are, in different locations and they did not come together, they did not react together, then you will not have fire. So that is that missing chemical reaction that we are talking about. That is what gives us the idea of fire tetrahedron. So this has led to development of the fire tetrahedron, a triangular pyramid having four sides, okay, including the bottom. So some fire suppression agents do not remove or reduce any of these necessary components. Do you understand that? I said earlier on that we have these three components, okay? In other words, if you don't want fire, what you do is just to remove the component, one of the components or the elements, then definitely you will not have fire. But in a further training, okay, when we are now mentioning the fire tetrahedron, we are now saying that there is a sustaining chemical reaction. So in an advanced knowledge, we get to know that you may not even remove any of these elements before you extinguish the fire. What you need to do is to alter the chemical reactions. So if you alter the chemical reactions of the fire, then the fire also will be extinguished. So in most fires, it does not matter which element gets removed. The fire fails to ignite or it goes out. However, there are certain chemical fires where knowing only the triangle is not good enough. So that is the idea. Okay. So talking further about fire tetrahedron. Okay. Now we are talking about combustion. So combustion is the chemical reaction that feeds a fire more heat and allows it to continue. Okay, so with most type of fires, the whole fire triangle models work well enough, no doubt about that. But when the fire involves burning metals known as a class D in the American system of fire classification, we are still coming to this. I'm still going to explain the classes of fire. Because when you really want to fight fire, you must know the classes of fire, the types of fire, the types of extinguisher. All these are going to be discussed in details. Okay, so this class D type of classification of fire involves metals like lithium, magnesium, etc. So it becomes useful to consider the chemistry of combustion. Now, putting water on such a fire could result in the fire getting hotter or getting escalated or even exploding because such metals can react with water in an exothermic reaction to produce flammable hydrogen gas. Therefore, other specialized chemicals must typically be used to break the chain reaction of metallic combustion and stop the fire. So that is where the idea and the knowledge of fire tetrahedron comes to play. Classification of fuels. So in this regard, we need to understand the fact that not all fires are the same. And they are classified according to the type of fuel that is burning. So if you use the wrong type of fire extinguisher on the wrong class of fire, you can in fact make matters worse. It is therefore very important to understand the four different fire classifications. Class A, we have four classes: Class A, Class B, Class C, and D. So Class A are the wood, paper, cloth, trash, plastics, etc. Okay, all these are some kind of solid combustible materials that are not metals. In fact, Class A are generally known to leave ash after burning. Okay, so the next one is Class B. Class B, that is flammable liquids like gasoline, oil, grease, acetone, and so on and so forth. So any non-metal in a liquid state on fire, that is Class B. So the classification also includes flammable gases. Class B fires generally involve materials that boil or bubble. Okay, so now the next one is Class C. Class C, this one is they are the electrical fire. So and don't miss it. Electrical means the electrical appliances or equipment must be energized. If it is not energized, if any fire happens through that, you cannot class it as electrical fire. For instance, let's say you have this kettle, boiling kettle. If you do not put plug it with current, is not energized. If anything happens to it and it gets burnt, that is not electrical fire. But if it gets plugged get energized, and through the time of working, okay, fire happen, then you can classify that as electrical fire. Okay. Now, class D. Class D are metals like potassium, like sodium, like aluminum, and magnesium. And all this one is very rare, okay? Unless you work in a laboratory or in an industry that uses these materials, it is unlikely to deal with a class D fire. So because it takes special extinguishing agents, we call it Meta X or foam, to fight this class of fire. Another very important topic to look at before we can endeavor to fight fire is the type of fire extinguishers. Just like we have different classifications of fire, so also we have different types of fire extinguishers to fight each type of fire. So which indicates that different types of fire extinguishers are designed to fight different classes of fire. The three most common types of fire extinguishers are going to be mentioned. Most fire extinguishers will have a pictorial label, like the one you are looking in the diagram on this screen. Okay, so which will be telling you which classification of fire the extinguisher is designed to fight. Come along with me. So we have the DCP, which is called the dry chemical extinguishers. So the dry chemical extinguishers comes in a variety of types. You may see them labeled as DC, which stands for dry chemical. You may see them being labeled as ABC, which indicates that they are designed to extinguish class A, B, and C fires. Or you can see them uh, designed as BC, which indicates that they are designed to extinguish class B and C fires. ABC fire extinguishers are filled with a fine yellow powder. The greatest portion of this powder is composed of monoammonium phosphate. And we have nitrogen to pressurize the extinguisher. So the ABC extinguishers are red and range in size from 5 pounds to 20 pounds. Another very important thing that I would like to talk about in this episode of fire safety is fire prevention at the workplace or job site. As we all know, or as you will all agree with me, that fire occurrences are very costly, both at home and in industry. So many lives could be lost, and workers and their family will suffer this cost of the loss. So that is why it is often said that prevention is better than cure. So it is very important and paramount to ensure that we prevent the occurrence of fire, either in our homes or in our working places. There is often one perception that fire is more dangerous than burglars. If a burglar enters somebody's house or enter an industry, they can only pack some few items. But if fire occurs, the fire can consume everything, including the rug. If a thief enter the house now, he will just steal some things. But fire will destroy everything. It will destroy the electricity, it will destroy the telephone, it will burn the rug. So it costs a lot of damages. So it is always better to prevent fire occurrence. Fire is a good servant, but a very bad master. So, and the heart of controlling fire is everyone's business. And your own part as a person or as a worker is to observe and comply with all the fire control regulations. So if you notice any hazard or conditions that could cause a fire, so it is always good or in a better position to report such to your supervisor at work, or to try and prevent it in your homes. May God always protect us. But most importantly, we have to be proactive in our means of preventing fire occurrence. Another important thing I want to mention is the causes of fire. So if we know the causes or what can cause fire, then we can mitigate against it. We can avoid those causes so that fire will not happen. Okay, fire could be caused by conditions, it could be caused by things. When I said conditions, I mean unsafe condition. Okay, it could be caused by things, then it could be caused by processes and activities of man in a given environment. So activities which are unsafe. So in other words, I can say unsafe condition and unsafe act. That is two types of things that can cause fire. Okay. Another one is unsafe processes, when you don't run a particular process in the normal way it's supposed to be run, then you can cause fire problem. Okay. And man's carelessness, poor housekeeping, improper use of tools, and defects. I mean, when you are using a defective tools. So all these things can cause fire. So in most cases, fire will not just happen; it is caused. It doesn't just happen. So the man is the one that's supposed to check him or herself. So when you check yourself and you try to avoid all those things, or you try to avoid all those conditions or actions or processes that can lead to fire, then fire will never happen. But if you are careless, you are prone to have fire problem. If your housekeeping is poor, according to OSHA said uh, all things in their places, and you have to keep all things in their places. Everything has a place. So when you keep things in their proper places and you have a very neat house or working place, then definitely you may not likely have fire. Okay. The last thing I will be talking about on this episode of fire safety is how to fight fire by PASS method. PASS is an acronym, PASS is an acronym that stands for uh, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. So you pull this pulling of the, well, you first of all lift the fire extinguisher, which must have been kept in an accessible place prior to the occurrence of fire. Then you have to carry the fire extinguisher, you have to pull it. That is the first action. Then the next action after pulling the string that holds the handle of the fire extinguisher, then you can now aim the bottom of the fire, the base of the fire. Okay, maybe the base or the bottom. You aim the base, because if you are just uh, using the extinguisher, you are just spraying the flame, you are not fighting anything. You have to aim the base first, then you squeeze, then you have to discharge. When you squeeze, you are discharging the content of that fire extinguisher. Maybe it's a chemical powder or it's water, or whatever type, okay, or even carbon dioxide fire extinguisher also. You use this all of them in the same way. Okay, then you sweep from left to right, left to right, left to right until the fire is being extinguished. So that is where I'm going to stop on this episode of Safety Talk with Adiat. We have been talking about fire safety. Fire safety is actually a very enormous topic, but I've just tried to talk about the most important aspect of fire safety. There are still some other things like sprinkler, like fire hose grill. These are used in big industries. Okay, so I wish all of you safety, and God bless you all. Thank you. Bye bye.